Network Africa. Former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa has died aged 81 in the main city of Dar es Salaam. Public schools in South Africa to close on Monday as the country passes the 400,000 mark in coronavirus cases. Plus, Western Sahara becomes the final country in Africa to confirm the presence of coronavirus, with 4 cases recorded. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. We begin in Tanzania, where former President Benjamin Mkapa has died aged 81 at a hospital in the main city of Dar es Salaam, where he had been receiving treatment. The cause of death is not clear and was not revealed in President John Magufuli's televised speech to the nation. 7 days of mourning have been declared, with all flags to be flown at half-mast. President Magufuli called Mkapa's death a big loss for us and as a country, and added, "Let's pray for him." The late president led the country for 10 years following its first multi-party elections in 1995. It took over from Ali Hassan Mounini, who had shifted the country's economic policy away from socialism. Mr. Mkapa introduced key economic reforms that saw the country transition to a liberal economy. We're still keeping our eyes on the political situation in Mali. Day-long talks led by 5 West African presidents to resolve the crisis have ended without a deal between the government and the opposition. The opposition coalition wants President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta to resign, saying his government has failed to tackle armed militias, corruption, and the fallout from disputed parliamentary elections in March. Thursday's delegation of presidents were representing regional bloc ECOWAS, which has now announced that an extraordinary summit of all West Africa heads of state will be held on Monday. While the opposition coalition says President Keïta must go and a transitional government be created, ECOWAS has ruled out removing the president from office, saying any change of government must be through constitutional provisions. According to the current head of ECOWAS, Niger's president, strong measures will be taken to help resolve the crisis at the end of the summit next week. African Affairs Analyst DECLAN IHEKAIRE joins us now for more on the situation in Mali. The Mali summit has ended with no agreement from both parties. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that the Mali summit ended with no agreement from both parties. Very unfortunate because it implies that more lives will be lost. It implies that the economic situation of Mali will be drastically affected. It also implies that the issue will end up disrupting so many things in Mali. I think from my own understanding, it could have been easier if the main opposition to President Keïta is a politician. Would have seen it from the angle that probably he's interested in occupying a political position. But from every study so far, it's very, very clear that Diko, who happens to be the main leader of June 5 agitation, is a cleric. And beyond being a cleric, he has been a trusted cleric who is interested in system change. System change means everything about Mali has to be changed beyond political change. And so it will be very difficult, extremely difficult to resolve such crisis as far as Mali is concerned. So the only thing that I feel is expedient now is that if Mr. President in Mali could agree to resigning his position, then maybe a national government is formed, or resigning totally and let there be an election.
Mr. IHEKAIRE, you know, ECOWAS has ruled out the possibility of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta resigning, but that is what the opposition is demanding. What could be the solution to ending the political crisis?
Yeah, though ECOWAS has ruled out the possibility of President Ibrahim Keita resigning. Yeah, if truly Mr. President of Mali is interested in the welfare and well-being of Malians, I think at this point, rather than wasting more lives of innocent people in Mali, he should honorably resign his appointment or his position as president of Mali, though not minding the fact that he has 3 more years to go to complete his second term in office. But the problem is this: in Africa, most of our leaders are interested in occupying positions, not minding the consequence and the backlash on the citizenry itself. And so you find a sit tight leaders. You find leaders who are not interested in the welfare and well-being of citizenry. And in a normal climate, at this point in time, I think Mr. President should just step down and say, okay, let peace reign and let's agree on how to move our country forward. So if at that point he decides to present himself again and the people says yes, he's fit to contest again, I think he's well off. But if he's insisting that constitutionally he has 3 more years to go, and that 3 more years is not going to give peace to Mali, I think I would suggest that he should just resign as president of Mali, and let's see how it goes.
Following the talks that just ended, the current head of ECOWAS, Niger's president, says strong measures will be taken to help resolve the crisis at a summit scheduled for next week. What do you think these strong measures should be?
Yes, that's a good one. But the fact is this: no one knows the strong measures that will be taken. No one knows whether the opposition will accept. No one knows whether the president's camp will accept. But the fact remains that the interest of the people of Mali should be utmost to whoever is interested in bringing about peace in Mali. Anything short of the interest of the majority of the citizenry in Mali should not be considered as any strong measure. As far as I'm concerned, I've suggested so far that Mr. President, if that is demand of the people, voice of the people is voice of God. And if they must be honorable enough, I think Mr. President should accept the fact of resigning his position. But any other strong measure coming from ECOWAS, I doubt if it will work when it does not go the way of the people, when it does not go the way of the popular demand in Mali. That is to say, anything short of a policy or a principle or an attempt not to make sure that majority of Malians benefit from whatsoever measures to be taken will surely not be accepted by Malians.
All right, then, African Affairs Analyst DECLAN, IHEKAIRE, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. In North Africa, a mass grave dating back to 1990 has been discovered by the Sudanese government. An announcement came from the Attorney General, who says the mass graves held the remains of 28 military officers believed to have been involved in a failed coup against former President Omar al-Bashir. In a statement released, the site is now under the protection of the authorities until the investigations would finish. Mr. Bashir's regime foiled a military coup in 1990, and many reports said that the officers involved were killed. He is currently facing charges over the military coup that had brought him to power in 1989. If convicted, the former president who ruled Sudan for 30 years could face the death penalty. Mr. Bashir has also been indicted by the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes and genocide in the Western Darfur region. He was overthrown last year after months of pro-democracy demonstrations. A prominent South Sudanese economist has fled to the United States, accusing South Sudan's President Salva Kiir of ordering a hit squad to kill him or kidnap him in Kenya. Peter Hajak landed at Jos Airport outside Washington with his wife and 3 small children after traveling from Nairobi, saying top South Sudanese officials had warned him that the president had ordered a team to abduct or murder him there. Mr. Hajak said SUVs with South Sudanese plates followed him in Nairobi, where he moved in February after about 18 months in prison in South Sudan. He was pardoned in January of charges he had disturbed the peace by speaking to the foreign media. Asked why President Kerr may have wished to have killed him or capture him, Ajak said he believes South Sudan's president felt threatened by his efforts to expose corruption and promote democracy in the country, which gained independence in 2011 and was mired in civil war from 2013 to 2018. However, South Sudanese government has flatly denied Ajak's allegation that President Kerr sent a hit squad after him in Nairobi.
For the last few weeks in Nairobi, I have been surveilled by South Sudan vehicles, licensed vehicles. I've been seeing them everywhere, near my apartment, everywhere I go, being followed. When friends try to visit me or relatives visit me, they're being followed. So it's not just only the word that we receive, but also the kind of activities that we saw happening over the last 5 weeks. About 5 weeks ago, I received information that the president of South Sudan, Salva Kiir, had ordered the National Security Service, headed by a Colonel Kuch, to either kill me in Nairobi or abduct me and bring me back to South Sudan.
The United Nations has condemned the killing of 5 aid workers by militants in Nigeria. The militants abducted the 5 men in the northeastern Borno state in June. UN humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Edward Callan, said it's unacceptable that those who are trying to help are being attacked and killed. According to UN spokesperson Stephen Jarek, Callan stressed that at a time when humanitarians are needed to have reached unprecedented levels, aid workers and the assistance they provide to the most vulnerable make the difference between life and death for entire communities.
From Nigeria, our humanitarian coordinator and resident coordinator, Edward Callan, condemned the gruesome killing of 4 aid workers and a security guard by non-state armed groups. The 5 were abducted last month while traveling on a main route connecting the town of Monguno with Maiduguri in the northwest in the Borno state. Mr. Callan stressed that at a time when humanitarians need to have reached unprecedented levels, aid workers and assistance they provide to the most vulnerable make the difference between life and death and entire communities. Nearly 8 million people were in need of urgent life-saving assistance in the Northeast at the beginning of the year, and today 10.6 million people are in urgent need of support as the conflict-affected states battle the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Callan urged all armed parties to step up their responsibilities and stop targeting aid workers and civilians.
Let's shift our focus to the COVID-19 pandemic now. Western Sahara has become the final country in Africa to confirm the presence of the coronavirus, with 4 cases recorded there on Thursday. The country is recognized by the African Union as its 55th member state, although Morocco claims it is part of its territory. There are now more than 750,000 cases of coronavirus in Africa, with over 15,000 deaths. All African nations have reported cases, and the WHO warns that the numbers are rising in most countries. Still ahead on the program, our Africa Tech segment discusses the growing dominance of big tech. Details in a moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. State schools in South Africa will close for 4 weeks from Monday as part of measures to combat a surge in the number of coronavirus cases. President Cyril Ramaphosa says it's important to ensure that schools did not become sites of transmission as confirmed cases in the country passes the 400,000 mark. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, has more.
After weeks of heated debates and anticipation, President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered the speech he thought many would be happy to hear.
Cabinet has decided today that all public schools should take a break for the next 4 weeks. This means that schools will be closed from the 27th July and will reopen on the 24th of August. There are, however, some exceptions.
There are still many unaddressed concerns, but as expected, reactions have been mixed, even for those who stood together calling for the closure of schools over rising infection numbers. Wading in, the South African Human Rights Commission described the latest closure of public schools as regrettable and unjustifiable.
Yes, absolutely. We stand by that. By 24 August 2020, over 10 million South African children, depending on their grades, will have lost over half or 100 scheduled school days as a result of school closures. So our position that schools should not have been closed is based on wide-ranging research indicating that school closures lead to increases in hunger and malnutrition. For many poor children, the meal they get at school constitutes a high percentage of the total food they receive daily. Secondly, it also points to an increased risk of child abuse, of rising rates of depression and anxiety, and children are at high risk of being left home alone when their caregivers go to work. In this regard, the announcement is not very helpful at all. There's also increases in inequality, since poorer learners and schools are least able to continue learning, and poorer children regress significantly as far as reading and math skills are concerned during extended absence from schools. We also note that independent schools will remain open, and in addition to this, in line with the current directions from the minister, schools can deviate from the dates for the opening of schools, and our own survey has shown that 43% of schools intended to request approval to deviate in this regard. And both these factors are likely to exacerbate the inequalities in education. On the other hand, we welcome the announcement by the President that the school feeding scheme will be resumed for the 9 million qualifying learners, in line with the North Gauteng High Court decision. This is very important, as a recent study by DECLAN has indicated that 15% of respondents said that they reported that a child had gone hungry in their household in the last 7 days.
Dr. Uchiamadi, who is an education consultant based in Johannesburg.
My worry is that there does not seem to be any structures in place by the government to ensure that learners from disadvantaged schools are in touch with teaching and learning during this period. While it is obvious that we cannot do much at this time, regrettably, government should strategically put in place a kind of teaching and learning continuity program, particularly for the disadvantaged learners at all levels.
While the COVID Command Council moves to provide clarity on what's been announced, the main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, has headed to court to challenge the school's closure, saying that it perpetuates inequality and goes against scientific advice. On Saturday, ministers serving in the National COVID Command Council are expected to brief the nation with more details on the president's speech and government's further plans to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Over the past few years, big tech companies have grown tremendously, changing the way we use technology in our daily lives. Even though many sectors have reported devastation from economic downturn, tech companies have proven to be resilient. They've tapped into new market segments, building digital infrastructure for the world in unprecedented times. Joining us now on the program is Olani Adeosun, CEO of Total Infotech and Telecoms, to discuss more on this. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. For the benefit of those who may not be aware, help us understand what big tech is and why it's so important.
Thank you very much. Big tech is a popular name for the tech giants. So when we talk about the four major organizations that control the information technology space globally, they're the guys that are called fintech. So when we talk about these guys, we're talking about Facebook, you're talking about Apple, you're talking about Google, and you're talking about Amazon. So basically, those are the four big guys that are in that space called big tech.
So we say big tech, I imagine something enormous. How big is big tech really? And is there a role played by big tech companies, especially in influencing the economy?
For the big techs, there's a growing concern about the power of the big techs, because when you look at the overall composition of what happens in the whole world currently, they are the guys who control the majority of what's going on. So when you look at Facebook, with the volume of data they got, you look at Apple, you understand, with the number of people who are signed up to Apple products across the globe. Of course, I mean, for Google, the power of Google cannot even be underestimated. So when you look at all of these organizations, including Amazon, you cannot take away the fact that there's some kind of power they have in influencing what's happening in the global economy.
Mr. Olani Adeosun, CEO of Total Infotech and Telecoms, there's so much to touch on this topic, but it's been a pleasure hearing your thoughts on it. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Finally on the program, the Lagos state government here in Nigeria has assured motorists that the next 6 months will not be a nightmare for those plying the Third Mainland Bridge. The state governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says 650 traffic management officials will be manned to the area to ensure vehicular movement. Our correspondent, Titilayo Aberowo, reports.
Convenient or not convenient, the Third Mainland Bridge will be partially closed today for repairs, with a time frame of 6 months. The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is concerned and appeals to residents to bear the discomfort that comes with ensuring safety on the bridge.
This is an exercise that we have done before, so we know it, and so there is nothing for anybody to be worried about. And for emphasis' sake, the disruption is only about 20 to 25% of the people that usually are on Third Mainland Bridge. The 75% to 80% that are the major percentage will still have access to and on the Third Mainland Bridge.
State officials in charge of the rehabilitation explains the procedure for the repair work.
After 3 months, the bound from mainland to island will be shut, and then the bound from island to Woroshoki will be opened.
We are taking time to repair some of the inner roads along that Oyinbo side. Oyinbo has been done, Abeokuta Street has been done. The other side roads that leading with the aim of just exiting into about Macaulay major highway. We are taking time also to do some repairs on about Macaulay, all linking to Jibo.
And motorists are also advised to obey traffic laws.
The traffic laws remain. Do your best not to violate the yellow bus operators who are fond of parking illegally, picking up passengers when they shouldn't, and obstructing traffic flow. If you are fond of buying and selling or contributing to sell or for people selling on the road, you are adding to the traffic problem as a Lagosian.
Assurances have been given that all the necessary agencies will be on ground to control traffic on the 3rd Mainland Bridge and other parts of the metropolis. The next few days may just give Lagosians an idea of how well that will play out. Titilayo Abereowo, Channels Television News.
And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shubowale. Have a lovely weekend.